Thank you for joining us today on the last day of September 2024. I'm Olivia Rios, Director of Operations and Programs at the LA Latino Chamber, and our team wishes you warm wishes to our fellow small businesses a happy Hispanic Heritage Month. We all come from different countries, but our cultures unite us. And in this webinar, we'll be discussing how you can develop and implement B2B and B2C marketing strategies for your business. Our speaker today is Fabio Mendes, Senior Brand Strategy Manager at Delta Airlines. He has over 30 years of experience in the branding expertise, and he's worked for reputable companies globally, including Europe, Brazil, and now the United States. We all know that hiring a marketing expert can be very expensive, and we hope that you get some golden nuggets today that you can apply to your marketing campaigns. As a leading community organization, the Los Angeles Latino Chamber brings you experts who will share their resources that you can apply to your business right away. Fabio will be discussing the difference between B2B and B2C branding, the building blocks of B2B, and a pre-check on branding for your organization so that you're not afraid to build your own brand. But before we start, we'd like to ask you to please mute yourself. You can ask questions in the chat box, and it is an interactive session, so you can raise your hand and we'll answer the questions along the way. This webinar is being recorded and it'll be available at the end of this week. So welcome, Fabio.
Thanks, Olivia, and thanks everybody who took the time to join us today. My name is Fabio Mendes. I've been 30 years in the travel industry, working in the travel industry. I'm a Brazilian, so this is where this accent is coming from. I'm a Paulistano, and I've been out of these 30 years in the travel industry. I dedicated 10 years of those in B2B marketing, so helping a travel technology company that entered Latin America. As Olivia said, I'm now living in my third country, which gives me a great perspective of things from different angles. I've been 13 years with Delta now. I'm a father of two amazing boys, Gael and Tel. I've been working in different areas of the travel industry, but mainly in customer service, sales, lounges, marketing, and branding. I love to cook, and I'm still thinking if I live to travel or if I travel to live. But regardless, I think I work in the right industry with that dilemma, right? So if you guys want to connect with me after this webinar, you can find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram under Fabit's profile. So when we think about marketing, we think about a lot of stuff, right? From the amazing TV spots we see from Apple advertising their new iPhone to very sexy out of home we bump into on the streets. Marketing goes beyond that than the common sense, right? So it also encompasses product research, product development, pricing, promotion, distribution, CRM, and so many others. But at the end, I love this Philip Kotler quote, which defines marketing as a way to reduce the need for selling. And this is exactly what I want to talk a little bit more about today. So, what do you need to do, or what do you need to understand before doing the aim of selling, right? So, when we think about B2B and B2C markets, although they have very distinguished audiences, there's three things that are very common to both sides of this slide here. So think about positioning. Positioning is nothing less than the way you want your consumers to perceive your brand, your service, or your product, right? Positioning helps you build an effective brand and marketing strategy because its ultimate goal is to carve a very specific space on your audience's mind, right? So when we think about innovation, I'm sure that most of the people will think about Apple, right? If we think about cars and we think about safety, you're going to probably think Volvo, right? If you think about magic, vacations, entertainment, you're going to think Disney. So getting to know exactly what is your positioning is essential in order to build successful brand strategy. The second one is differentiate. It's your differential, right? Or what we call the brand truth. the one and only and the one thing that only you can offer, right? So we you need to make that question to ensure that you're communicating what no one else can deliver to your audience or to your customer. And the last one is audience focus. So it doesn't start with your product, it doesn't start with your service. It starts with your consumer, it starts with your client. What are their needs? What are their desires? What make them feel successful? What do they need in order to be successful in their businesses in the case of B2B? So these three items here, they will be essential whenever you are crafting a strategy for a B2B audience or to a B2C audience. But I just want to stroll quickly between the differences, the main differences between both, right? So when we think about B2B, we think about a customer that needs to be educated, right? So you need to nurture that relationship. You need to understand rationally what are the needs of their businesses, of their business. When you think about B2C audience, that happens in another way, right? So you have more opportunities to tap into their feelings, into their desires, in even sometimes even showing them what they don't know they needed, right? So this is basically the nature of B2C audiences. When you think about the process of conversion on B2B, it's going to be a lengthy conversion, right? It involves multiple decision makers, complex evaluation processes, while on the B2C side, that purchase happens sometimes on premise, on spot, often immediately. So there are other drivers operating when that decision is made. And lastly, it's all about the conversion drivers, right? So on a B2B audience, that is going to be logical, that is going to be practical, and will take in consideration tangible factors. So you're talking to a very pragmatic audience in this case. And when it comes to B2C, that is a much more propensity to make a decision on buying based on emotion. So this makes me feel prettier, this makes me feel safer, this makes me belong to a culture, right, or to a community. So these are basically the nuances between one or another. One thing is for sure, the brand, the positioning that you guys see here, a business decision. And why do I say that? I say that because although you're going to see on the bottom right here different positioning strategies, they will all ladder up to only two. Either you're going to have a strategy that is based on price, so the value that what you offer your consumer is a cost reduction, or they're going to be based on differentiation, right? So if I'm not competing for price, I'm competing for differentiation, and that differentiation can spin around so many different things. Like I can give you Delta's example. For Delta wants to be perceived as a premium airline, so we offer a range of benefits and experiences for you, from like sky priority in the airport to VIP lounges to loyalty programs, all to make all for you to understand that the value that you are the service you're paying for is worth. When you think about cost, for example, you can think Costco, right? So Costco is going to offer you a price point that no one else can beat, but the experience, they won't care or put a lot of focus into the experience, right? So you need to carry those bulk things. You don't have any support from the store for packaging, for example. So it's all about how much you're saving, and you can even perceive the value on that on your wallet at the end of the day, right? So I brought also three examples of brands here that are using one of these two strategies, and I also included a third because times changes, right? Times change, and we are living in a new world. But if you think Patagonia, for example, Patagonia had a very solid, unique selling proposition. They wanted everything they do, and they sell to help combat climate change, right? So they were so true to their purpose that their founder ended up creating two NGOs and donated the entire company to these two NGOs to ensure that when he passes, every profit that Patagonia makes is used to combat climate change. Then at the other side of the spectrum, you have Dollar Shave Club, which entered the market as a disruptor, right? So by observing customers in the market, they realized there was a big deception among men with the on the value of the razors. So the industry started to offer more and more expensive razors with very few differentiation between the different categories that the players were putting in the market. And they decided to go through the cost avenue and eliminated the middleman, being the first razor brand to be sold directly to consumers. They were also clever enough that once they had a big client base, they started to offer subscription services, which helped them to make these customers going a little bit beyond the transaction, making them loyal and enhancing their frequency of purchase. And then you have a third player, which is very much in sync with the days we're living in where everything is digital. So Netflix started by trying to solve a customer problem. I think if you were here more than 35, I would say, you have once rented DVDs in a physical store, and every time you forgot to return on the day you have set with that store, you had to pay delay fees, right? So Netflix started as a company that offered DVDs that were mailed to you, but where they would never charge for a late return fee. And again, once they had that big client base, they went a bit beyond and decided to tap into what was just being offered to the market, the internet broadband, and created an entire category that we now know as video streaming. So this shows you, I hope this can illustrate why positioning is a business decision. And you need it because you need to have it clear on your minds and in your businesses, because that's going to help you first make customers understand the value and not the price of what you offer. That's going to set a distinctive place on your consumer's mind. And third, that will help you to create meaningful and real connections, because once the value is perceived and you have a clear function on your consumer's mind, that tends to keep bringing customers back, reducing the need of selling, right, and creating loyalty. So I don't want to make this like a monologue. So if you guys have questions, please stop me. Don't wait for the end. I'm happy to answer any questions. Any questions so far here, guys? Anything on chat?
I don't have any questions on the chat right now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'll keep moving. So once we learn, so now that we know why the brand positioning is a business decision and what is important, the fundamentals of the marketing strategies, you should be asking yourself, what else I need to know, right, to start crafting my marketing strategy or my branding strategy. Well, guess what? We're going to talk a bit more about audience. So this is what we call the audience incomes framework. So I'm bringing to you guys here four click downs, I would say, to your audience, and why do you need to know why you need to know this from them. So first one is demographics. Demographics is usually a dimension that we use for B2C traditionally, but I kept it here because at the end you're going to be talking to someone in a corporation. Even if you're on a B2B side of the house, you're going to be talking to someone either on the supply chain department, or any other department in the company. You're going to be interacting with someone. So you better know their age, their income, education, location, preferences, right? Because that's going to help you set a more deeper relationship with the stakeholders. And even on B2B, I believe you can have sometimes purchases that are based on relationship, that are based on emotions, given the relationship that you establish with your buyer, right? Then firmographics, which is what we use the most, the dimension we use the most in B2B. So we need to know the size of of your customers, the industries they are in. Sometimes they are in more than one industry, and that can help you even customize the narrative to this customers. Their years in business, their ownership structure, who influences who. All of that information is extremely important, so you can understand how you're going to design your marketing strategy. Then the psychographics, right? Again, although more common in B2C, you're going to be interacting with someone on the other business side. So getting to know their values, and companies today, they become so sophisticated that even B2B corporations, they have their values, they have their mission very clear. So this is something you gotta understand in details, what they believe in, their interests, their attitudes, who they support in the community. That kind of information is essential for you to connect more effectively. And then the last one, what we call the behavior graphics, right? So this is more in terms of behavior. So what's their purchase frequency, right? Do they buy seasonal? What are the volumes? When they tend to buy more, when they tend to buy less. So all of that will help you to put together a more effective strategy. And then when we think about putting together a strategy, I'm going to focus now on B2B and small medium businesses because that's the core of the audience we have today here with us. So one of the easiest ways for you to be top of mind within your target audience and create reputation, it's to use the thought leadership strategy. So what does that mean exactly? That means you're gonna design a strategy where your brand, your company is gonna become a source of industry information. So you have many different ways of doing this, but the most effective and most popular ones are these three. So invest in content production. You know, most of the times, what separates us from a marketing strategy is time, and time is money. I know, but I would say in B2B, you have less of a need to have a higher media investment, because that media investment will only pay off if you have a content to send those referrals, to send those leads to. So, for example, let's say we are talking about paper industry, right? A paper manufacturer. He will invest on media, and he's gonna advertise in the most popular B2B portal for the paper industry, right? That click will need to go somewhere. So you're going to have a nice banner there saying that Mendes paper is the best paper in the market, and you're going to click it there, and that's going to take you somewhere. So if you have that content produced before you start to invest in media, you're going to be basically not communicating anything that is efficient, right? So when I say that what separates us from a marketing plan on the B2B side is because you can start doing that simply by posting every week, right? On LinkedIn, for example, you're gonna share your thought on something that is happening within the industry. You can write case studies. You can put together infographics. You can create what we call content snacks, right? So on anything that is important, I'm sorry, that is important to your audience. That hence the importance of knowing who they are, where they go, what they eat, everything you can know about your audience in order to produce this content. Second thing, speak publicly. Go to speak engagements. Get involved with your industry associations. Be an active member. It's not only paying for the sponsorship fee or the membership fee every month. Get into the community. Hear, listen, get feedback. use all of that to bring them information that is relevant, that they can start to perceive you as someone who really understand the pains, and the needs they have. And the third one, because we can do everything, partnerships, collaborate with experts. If you have someone who's a vendor, bring them for a conversation with your final customers. Let them tell them what it takes in order to offer a quality component, or how much their expertise can add into a consulting gig, for example. Sponsor events, but bring external players to your communication who can add reputation and who can endorse what you do. Then once you have this content and you have this outline, the other important thing is how we're going to package this, right? How we're going to bring this to life. So you got to be consistent across every touch point you have, right? So that doesn't change from B2B to B2C as well. You got to keep your personality, you got to keep your tone the same regardless the channel. So if Mendes paper decides to use humor as a tone in its communication, that needs to be present in the blog posts, that needs to be present in the speak engagements, that needs to be present on the sales call, on the collateral, in everything you do, because that's going to help outline the shape, the form, the personality, what's in there for me in your consumer's mind, right? So usually a quick guide to help you, a quick identity guide like colors, shapes, the basics. So whenever you're not able to do it, somebody can easily take on and keep the tone, the visuals, and everything, and the message consistent, right? So the second one is to establish clear communications channels. We can't be everywhere, So that's the importance of the audience. It's very common that people come to me and say, "Hey, Fabio, I have a little, a small makeup brand. Where do you think I should advertise?" And then I ask, "Who's your audience?" "Oh, everyone that uses makeup." That doesn't exist, guys. Everyone who uses makeup, it's a vast universe of people, you know you gotta understand who has more propensity to buy your service, to buy your product, to buy whatever you're selling, and if you dig deeper and if you start looking what is right in front of you, you're going to realize it's not hard to understand who are who are those people, from a makeup, everybody who uses makeup, to young people who uses makeup, to Latino young people who uses makeup, to Latino youngsters who uses makeup in California. You came from a vast universe to like a very focused target. Once you find out that, that's going to help you to understand where are these people, where you can find them, where you can impact them with your messaging and with your strategy, right? And last but not least, measure consistent messaging. Keep consistent with your tone, with your messaging, but please measure. And you have many different ways of doing it. If it's a single post on LinkedIn, if it's a simple post on LinkedIn, post next week and see if you had the same number of people liking. See if you had any comments. See if you had people sharing that, right? Compared to this week's, did you grow? You didn't see any changes? So, measurement is very, very important. Whatever you're going to do today, most of what you're going to do is going to be digital. And there is the opportunity for you to measure, right? Don't ignore the simple analytics you have in any social media platform. For example, even emails, the number of emails that were opened, the number of emails that were forwarded to anyone, the clicks to download brochures. Keep a track of that. Don't make it rocket science. Keep it simple, but let this guide your efforts. Let this guide your trials, your learns, that I'm sure you're going to see how beautiful the basics of communication is. So frequency, audience, and measurement, it's all you need in order to build a successful strategy. All good so far, guys?
Hi, it's Olivia. So there's
Hey,
some questions in the chat. I think you're doing, I mean, I'm certainly learning a lot, and I think Olivia is as well. Thank you.
so let's quickly talk about a case study that I found here. Overview of Intuit's QuickBooks product. So a case study starts with a problem, right? So Intuit had a problem where their QuickBooks product was not that famous or known by nascent entrepreneurs. So people who started their business and they started to get traction. So this is exactly the target audience that has the need for the solution that they offer, and so they wanted their products to be more known by this target, and they also wanted to generate conversations about businesses challenges, because their product have so many functionalities that is really hard to explain one. So they were counting that by generating these conversations in social media, they could show up and moderate those conversations, offering the solutions that QuickBooks can give. And ultimately they wanted to increase their net subscriptions, right? So they came up with a campaign. It's a very interesting take and strategy that they used to stand out in the crowd. So let me get back to you guys here and put this in the chat. But basically they had an entire campaign that position their product between the expertise and the hesitation. And it's very smart. Why? Because one of the spots here, it's about a young entrepreneur that she's a furniture design, right? So you guys are going to see that she starts saying, I know everything about furniture. I can give you all the information I need. But when it comes to accounting, and then she looks to a pile of papers and spreadsheets in her office, she was not that sure. So they tapped into that pain point, right? So we know that you guys have your focused business. We want you guys to keep focused on your focused business, and it's okay to ask for help. I think us that in any time in life, if we try to have a business, there's always that feeling that I need to be on top of everything. I need to know everything. I need to have the answers for everybody. So that's what Intuit tapped on that feeling. You see that even being a very emotional decision making, right? There are opportunities for you to pinch emotions here and there. But the most interesting aspect of this campaign is that they develop another 300 digital assets, super tailor made to each of the industries. So if I'm impacted by that commercial and I click on it, when I'm referred to a landing page that's going to speak to my business, right? Because today we have media capabilities that let the advertiser know more or less what are my interests. So they would realize that I'm a paper company, and they would send me to a landing page where a lot about the problems of accounting paper companies are, the solutions they have, and be ready to take on that lead and offer the product. Not as a coincidence, that campaign generated 200,000 views in the first month, which was a 40% increase from what they saw in previous campaigns. And they had a 20% increase in traffic and website visits compared year over year, compared to other uh, um, campaigns in prior years. So again, they are being they've been very clever on understanding the pain points, addressing the pain point, offering the solution, develop a narrative where they can get closer to their target audience, and the results it's not magic. It's really I dare to say it's a formula, although a very nuanced formula, depending on the business and the target. but it's not rocket science, and can be simpler than what you guys think. I'm sure on your day by day, there are opportunities for you to rethink the way you see each of those things that I'm talking about, and and steer in different directions if needed. So no questions so far. If there are no questions, I'll go to my last slide.
Before you go, I do have a
Yes.
question, and that goes back to what you were talking about. So this question is from Aldrarena Ayala. I have a question. You mentioned to getting involved in speaking engagements. I recently joined my community's Chamber of Commerce. Does public speaking necessarily have to do with my business is involved with? If it's not, how can I make a bridge my business into my speech to get that exposure?
Yeah, I think if you're, thanks for the question, a very interesting one. I think if you're speaking on organization opportunity, right? If you're, what I mean by organization is like for a trade organization. So let's say the Association of Cosmetic Manufacturers, for example. Of course, nobody wants you to be there and be a presentation of your product. But what I think it works is if you try to speak on behalf of the category, if you do a quick research on what are the pains, what are the needs, what is affecting all of the audience present on that event, you know, and take it from there. I'm sure you're gonna find a natural fit of your business into it, or you can use your business, what you do in your company, as an example of a solution or a direction where you think that business should go, that industry should go. I won't say if you're. I'll just say if you're invited for a public speaking that does not concern your business or where your business has not a role, then I don't think there are any bridges to make. You better focus on the community and let your business aside. But when I say about public speaking, I'm talking about carving opportunities within trade shows, within conferences, where you have an affinity within that audience, which is the industry. So last slide, Carlos.
I think Gloria Jimenez had a
Oh,
question
yes.
as well.
Yes,
Okay.
hi. Thank you. Thank you for the
Hi.
information. It's been really helpful, insightful. I'm in commercial real estate and I'm fairly new. I'm like a year and a half. So how do you position yourself as an expert in the field when you are new, or how do you build up to that? And second question is about the values. How do you understand what kind of sources, where do you go to really understand what your customers, your ideal customers, what their values are?
Okay. Interesting question. Thanks, Gloria. So the first part of your question is how do you position your expertise when you're studying, right? I think a lot comes from observing your competitors in any given industry, trying to understand what is common, what is sometimes even there's an excess of offer on that industry. Understand what are the opportunities, right? So if you have the same standard information about a property, for example, what else do you think can be different and only you can offer and add as an information on that property? Would you say that, I don't know, I'm just making up, right? Are there any spaces for yoga, for example, well-being, wellness? What is a category on that long list of property information that is not there and that you think the owners would be interested at? The second one is about the values. The values is an interesting one because maybe it's the only time where it goes the other way around. So it starts with you. So it starts with what you believe. For example, we are here among an audience which is predominantly Latino and Hispanic, right? So what would we value? We value family time. We need to spend time around food, otherwise you cannot trust anyone. So what is your value? What do you value that needs to be on the surface so you can attract people that have the same affinity and that share the same values? I would say that is one that you do the other way around. Is basically how do you see the world and what you value, that you make it clear on your communication, and it's part of your positioning as well, to your audience. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yes, you did. I'm curious, when you're researching the values of of an audience, where do you go? How do you get that information?
Yeah, it's usually, as an advertiser, you can partner with media outlets to understand the values, right? So they can give you information. For example, let's say you're going to advertise on, let's use an influencer, right? Let's use an influencer as an example. You know, there's an influencer who has been very successful on selling properties for realtors, for example. You can go on his or her timeline and understand exactly the way she thinks about the world. And you're going to find examples, I'm sure, about it. If you're advertising with a trade publication, for example, you can ask what are the sections that people click the most, or what are the links they click the most, the resources they are looking for the most. So that is going to help you to build affinity and value. Research is another way. So surveys that you run through a target audience, for example. And as an advertiser on digital media, you have many different ways of capturing information that the publications offer to an advertiser. So it can be very sophisticated, as like using programmatic, for example, to learn about audience values and affinities. And it can be simple as like just observation, you know. But it will take you some time to put together that information. It won't be overnight. Anyways.
Okay, so we have two more questions, one from
Yes.
Anita. With regards to speaking as well, how effective is LinkedIn as a site for giving talks versus using one's own Zoom?
Okay, gotcha. So I think the beauty on LinkedIn is that you can buy the audience, while on Zoom, you will need to rely on your own network, right? So LinkedIn will offer you opportunities to partner with consolidated voices within the platform that can help you attract audience. On Zoom, you would need to use other promotional tools to put that audience together and to attract that audience, right? So here, for example, we are using Latino Chamber members database to invite people to come and see the webinar. So it's a shortcut. I would say that LinkedIn will offer you a shortcut, and it's going to charge for it as well.
Okay. The next question. What steps did Delta do over the years to establish their brand, tone, and customer appeal?
Thanks for that question, because I completely forgot to share Delta's examples, right? So Delta has an interesting recent story. So I'm not sure how familiar you guys are, and I hope you are, with Keep Climbing. That's our tagline. So that was born basically when Delta merged with Northwest. Back in 2008, aviation was much worse than it is today, guys. So you had, very bad customer service, very bad airport infrastructure. And Delta came out of that merge with Northwest with a pledge that we knew things were not good, but that we were committed on doing things better. And there is only one way to do things better when it comes to service, right? Of course, you got to have a modern fleet, you got to operate on time, you got to be safe, you got to take 135,000 people every day with bags from point A to point B, right? But you need people. You need people to make this thing happen. Delta is a company that invests so much in its people. There's so much we do behind the scenes, to ensure we have our employees at their best when they show to work. There's also a culture of what we call servant leadership, where we leaders, we used to say, when we don't have time for our team, we are not making our jobs, we're not doing our jobs. So it's really creating this environment where people can speak, be heard, and that we can act based on the feedback, and having everybody under the same spirit, which is always do better than what we did yesterday. So it's basically what we call the virtual cycle, right? So we invest in people that will treat our customers well. They will be coming back to us, bringing us more money, and that money get back to our investors who put more money in the company so we can put more money in the people that can, so it's a virtual cycle, and that's where we base our branding. It's an inside out strategy, I would say. So, and the tone and customer appeal, I would say, imagine on 200 people playing the many different demographics you have inside of it, and the many different reasons why somebody's flying with us. What we like to think, or the ambition that we have for the brand, which has to do a lot with our positioning, is that we believe we can connect people to their potential. So when you think about the brand beyond just an airline, you're going to think Delta as a platform to connect people to their potential. And we've been doing a lot lately to exemplify that. So we've been on LA Fashion Week with Visa Ray, giving the stage and in the moment to small and medium travel accessories brands. So we had 5 brands showing their products, being endorsed by Issa Rae 2 years ago. We were on Art Basel in Miami last year. I'm not sure if you guys know, but most of the artists being promoted on Art Basel are not from Florida. So we hosted an event and we commissioned art pieces to 5 different artists and hosted an event during Art Basel, trying to attract the media and the specialists to the work of these young artists. So we like to be seen as someone who believes things can do better, because that's what our people do. And this is how we blend our internal brand approach with the external brand approach.
I don't have any questions, but Jason did
Yeah.
raise.
Yeah, I was just wanted to follow up on that great input that you gave us about Delta. So I run a company that has a very similar culture to the Delta look and style of doing business. And was it did Delta invest on a lot of research to get to where they got, or it's been over the years just listening to their consumers and developing that brand and tone that they have?
I'm sure we invest much less than you think, Jason. But yes, we do invest with the size and influence we have in the market. We are always ensuring that we are not tone deaf, but mainly we know exactly who we want to talk to. That's why I keep insisting the importance of targeting, right? So imagine if we dedicate all of our investments in marketing to everybody who wants to travel. We or travel wants to travel or plans to travel. We would be speaking to every human being on earth, and we would never have the money to reach and impact everybody, right? You would need a bottomless marketing budget. So we have a business positioning, a brand positioning, which often I say, and I keep saying, that positioning is a brand decision. So we decided that we wanted to be a premium carrier. In other words, we adopted the differentiation strategy. So we now focus, because of the focus we have in offering premium experiences, not only the seat. Our target audience is basically travelers who are willing to spend more and pay for premium cabins from when going from point A to B. Besides that, aviation is very geographical as well, right? So I don't offer flights from everywhere to everywhere. So we also focus that research in our core hubs because that's where we have most of the seats available in the market. So it's always, that's why I say I hate to say there's a formula because it's super nuanced. It will depend on your business. It will depend on your distribution. It will depend on your audience as well. Hope to have answered, Jason.
Yeah, very, very good answer. Thank you. I kind of got the idea that you're not going to spend in every geographical area. You're going to go where you can serve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Remember the brand truth. I can say whatever I want, but consumers will know what is the truth. Always. Always.
Great. Thank you.
Of
And
course.
we have one last question from Cassandra. Delta made a huge announcement changing the loyalty program policy after listening to Delta customers, took a step back. How did the customer facing or customer listening team get to the decision to listen to the feedback and agree on the pivot?
Well, we always listen to our customers, right? So the changes in the loyalty program were made exactly to cater to this audience who's used to pay more for the same seat. But I think we realized that although they are very relevant to the business, they don't exemplify the entire realm of consumers and customers we have, right? So there are many ways that you monitor that. So a company of our size, you have from social listening, to future bookings. That is another KPI for us. So when we start seeing that 6 months ahead, we start to see a softening in our bookings. We try to understand what is going wrong. And of course, all of that was perceived. You are touching on something that is the reason for you to keep coming back and paying more with Delta. So we got back to the drawing board and discussed with the teams what would be the middle ground and got back with changes on the pivot. And we are lucky to be in an organization where we have a CEO that is really a marketeer. So he understood that we were on the brinks of losing more than gaining and decided to hear the consumers, put a pause on the changes, challenge our product team, who came back with like a middle ground solution. Because another thing that is impossible, guys, is to make everybody happy, right? So at least we managed to keep our brand lovers that not necessarily are the ones who spend more, our brand lovers and our premium customers on a good spot.
Okay, and I think that's it, Fabio. I want to thank you for educating many of us, and that is all for now. If you have questions about today's webinar, reach out to me. We can also share the presentation created. On that note, I'd like to thank you for joining us today and have a great week. Thank you.